The number one food export is the fish, and it's actually what they categorize as non-fillet fish, meaning whole fish. So this picture was taken just down the street here, about 2.5 miles down the street, in the Courthouse Seafood Market. It's run by three Portuguese brothers, and one of the things from Tuesday through Saturday, they go to the port and they pick up fish. Well, several times a week now, Greek fish are coming in. You see, these are boxes of bratia, or bronzini, as the Italians call it. If you go in the supermarket here, they sell it as Mediterranean sea bass. And these are some of the bratia. These are Greek sikours. So these are all from ichthyotrophia, or fish farms in Greece. And they're becoming very, very popular both in supermarkets and in restaurants. It's something clearly that can be increased. And of course, fish is one of, again, a fundamental component of the Mediterranean diet, and one of the most healthy foods that anyone can eat. You mentioned, someone mentioned the mastika shops, and you just also mentioned, herbs and things like this. So I think totally, again, consonant with the Mediterranean diet, but in a slightly different direction. We have a class of products we can call nutraceuticals, a combination of the words for nutrition and pharmaceuticals. But these basically can be supplements, food supplements, which can be tested for their health benefits, and they could be derived from the olive oils, or just the olive plant in general, from other nuts, from herbs, from honey, from mastika, from you name it. And these can even be beauty products as well as creams and soaps. And of course, we know olive oil creams and soaps and things in Greece. And they're very popular usually if we bring them back to people that we know here. But they're relatively unknown here unless you go to basically a Greek store. So to finalize, I also believe there are some opportunities. Tourism is one of Greece's most important industries. I think there are some opportunities in tourism which can be diet related. Along when we did the conference in September, one of the things we did is following the conference, we also had a Greek food and wine expo. And one of our supporters for that was EOT, or the Greek Ministry of Tourism. But when we asked them, we said, there are going to be a lot of people who are interested in food, gastronomy, wine. Can you bring us some special materials that relate to agrotourism or enoturismos? If you want to learn, if you want to visit where olive oil is made and things like this. They all said, we don't have anything. So these are things which now, they do exist in Greece. If you sort them out, you have to seek it out, like looking for alternative tourism in Greece or something. But it's, it should be easier to find, and they could be exploited more. So one example are the wineries are starting to develop the wine growth tours. We can go and visit different wineries and the regions and the casofori, etc. Olive oil production, where people can actually see where the olive oil is made and tasted, etc. Our friend and colleague Diane Kokilas, who's her heritage is from Korea, and she's a chef living from New York, but she lives in Athens full time. She has cooking school every year on the island of Korea, and many different people from the United States and Europe go to learn how to make Greek food. These are things which are underexploited. The final idea I'll leave you with is wellness tourism. You've probably all heard of medical tourism, maybe where you go to a foreign country where it's cheaper to have an operation, which you might like to have, but it's kind of elective, but you can go in a beautiful setting, etc. I think in Greece we have something. There is. I found this online. There is kind of a burgeoning sector for people to go and get, even eye surgery or even things like this. But and then we also have another genre which is like thalassotherapy and Alitra and baths and all these spas. But what's missing is you really could have camps for wealthy people where they could go for 4 to 8 weeks under the supervision of athletic trainers, dietitians, and physicians. These are not people who need operations. These are people basically who need a lifestyle change or shift. and they can be immersed in a beautiful setting, into traditional Greek diet, because of the climate of Greece. Even in the off season, the climate is very mild, so it's favorable for outdoor physical activity. And they can be taught to, reduce stress, improve their sleep, get more exercise. Maybe part of their problem is they only eat takeout or they eat out, so maybe they can also be taught to cook. But these could be, we can imagine, they can be conducted in existing hotels and resorts which already exist. And it's really just the idea of putting the people with the ideas together with the market, marketing this to the right people. But I'm sure there's no, if we watch TV, there's no shortage of people who have money, who want to lose weight, or they want to be healthier. Maybe they're starting to develop diabetes or starting to develop metabolic syndrome. These are all people who could be potential clients of something like this. And I think this is a perfect venue for people who have money to go there. And of course, diet is a good diet, so you would really be, getting great diet in situ. So I'll stop there. I appreciate your time and your attention. I don't know if I've gone over my time, but I'll take any questions.
Blue zones like in Italy, is there really a difference here? Just Mediterranean diet, is there a difference in blue zones?
Yeah. So the blue zones refer to several different zones, not just Mediterranean ones. I believe two are Mediterranean. One is Iberia, one is in Sardinia, and then one is the Seventh-day Adventists in Southern California, and I believe the fourth is Okinawa, which is ethnically a separate race or ethnicity of people from the main Japanese culture. So they share a number of common components. Obviously, the Sardinian diet and the Korean diet and the Crete diet, there are a lot of similarities in terms of the olive oil and wine, the physical labor, and things like that. Diane, I mentioned Diane Kokilas, she's actually written her last book on capitalizing on this and all the foods, and I recommend it. I have it at home. It's an excellent book with great recipes. But there are a lot of other unique things about the area, which probably most of us, unless you're going to retire now, you can't take advantage of. They never show up on time. But when talking about Greek time, they're talking about like 2 or 3 hours late. So Diane always tells the story of showing up to her own wedding like 3 hours later, and the priest was even later than that. But it's a small island with a few thousand people, so it doesn't really matter. But it'd be hard to do business like that. But obviously, they have very low stress.
Can you tell us more about how rapid or how immediate are the olive oil effects? If I change my diet today, do you see? Is it a week later? People feeling better, losing weight? Is it a month later? How rapid are the effects?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the data from Spain in the randomized control trial shows that there are pretty rapid effects. But obviously, the longer you follow it, and the greater portion of your life that you follow it, the more benefits you're going to derive. But there are, let's say, short-term effects. You could probably see biochemically in a couple of weeks on inflammation and things like that. But in terms of, let's say, like people who have this metabolic syndrome or components of metabolic syndrome, which are precursors of heart disease and diabetes, there are randomized control trials out there which show that within 3 months to 6 months that you begin to see changes in parameters. I believe in the Spanish study, within 6 weeks, there were measured statistical changes between different groups. But obviously, the longer you follow it, and then obviously if you stop it and you revert back, it will change back. And one last thought about that, there was recently a study where they took people from South Africa and an African American population in the U.S. and they traded their diets for like 2 weeks, and then they did investigations of the people's colons. It's a little bit, hopefully we're not too close to lunch. So, but but basically, people, the American diet they were feeding them was kind of like had like fried chicken, all kinds of fried foods, heavy fat foods, bacon, unrefined carbohydrates and things like that. And the South African diet was more similar to a Mediterranean diet. It didn't have olive oil, but there were lots of fruits and vegetables, more complex fibers, and things like that. Just after 2 weeks, there were radically different types of bacteria and things in people's bowels, also reaction to that, which doesn't prove things, but it certainly supports that nutrition is very, very closely related to a lot of things. So probably like colon, in this particular example, potential for colon cancer and things like that. First the lady and then the gentleman. Right. So what you're referring to is the GMO or genetically modified products. I think that there's probably not great evidence that the modified products are worse for you, and that the non-modified products. I mean, we all want to believe that the more natural and organic something is, the better it is. It's probably like as a rule, I would rather have you eat genetically modified fruits and vegetables and whole grains and combine that with olive oil than be eating, organic pork every day. Not organically produced sourdough bread that's refined flour. But that said, I mean, I think the arguments at this point are more theoretical. There aren't a lot of studies, but obviously, people who have more money can obviously buy things which are more organic products tend to be more expensive and things like this. On the other hand, if you just, some colleagues of ours did a study which was published within the last year and a half, and if you follow a healthy pattern of eating compared to a non-healthy pattern, it costs you about $1.50 a day extra. So I think those are choices you have to make for yourself. But probably if it was up to me, I would go with the thing that's more natural as opposed to less natural. But I think it's probably more important as a rule that you're following a Mediterranean diet as opposed to following a Western diet. Yes.
You show some studies and you compare Corfu and Greek, other countries, etc. Now, how is it possible to differentiate between the effects of the diet, let's call it Mediterranean or Japanese or whatever, and lifestyle and environment? For example, lifestyle, I would say stress, smoking, exercise, sleeping patterns. And then environment, of course, we live in a country that is more polluted than another. Let's go to Corfu and Crete. I have a hard time believing that the stress level is equal to Boston or LA.
Yeah,
exactly. Other places. And I'm not familiar with the medical field, yes, but in my own field, we keep one parameter at a time because I'm not dealing with living organisms. How do you decide this?
Exactly. So that's what I was getting to, and your question is excellent. So these were the very early studies that started to be doing 50, 60 years ago, and they were, if you will, primitive in that they're not truly experimental. So they were what we call ecological. You're comparing two different regions, and of course, as you correctly point out, there are many, many differences here in these cultures and lifestyles and environments which go beyond the diet. So this is where we see here like these observational, longitudinal, and then randomized control trials. What evolved is then we had studies which were, say, they were based just in Greece. So all the people in the study were Greek, and they were all basically in the same socioeconomic strata on average, same age and same distribution of male and female, urban, rural, etc. Smokers and non-smokers. So you have all these what we call confounding or covariate variables, and they're distributed evenly throughout the population, or we can do statistical adjustments for them. And then the people were given very, very complex and detailed questionnaires, which asked them about their dietary habits. And then they usually got what we call a Mediterranean diet score. And then usually what you do is you compare people who were in the highest quartile or the top 25% of adherence or agreement with the ideal, Mediterranean diet compared to the people who are in the lowest adherence group, and compare them. And then finally, this is what I'm saying. These studies were done, which is equivalent to almost what you would do in your laboratory or what is done in a drug study. So this is a randomized controlled trial where there's only one population, and then using a random number generator, we assign people at random to either the control diet or one of the two experimental diets. And if you read the paper, you can see that the characteristics of the underlying population in the three groups are statistically, really equal, more or less. So homogeneous, yes, and with equal distribution of other factors that could contribute, like smoking or diabetes, obesity, etc.
I think we're kind of out of time, so we can continue the break deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Palis. We'll continue our schedule with Mr. Jimmy Monsopoulos, Head of Social Responsibility of Libra Group. He will speak about Hellenic Entrepreneurship, a work colleague support for entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, for those speaking Greek, kalimera σας. For those speaking English, kalimera σας. I would like to extend many thanks to Mr. Antonis Pitaras and his team for throwing out this excellent event. And I would like to encourage the whole team to keep up and carry on with this great job for the next coming years. My name is Jimmy Monsopoulos, and I came here wearing two hats. One hat of the Libra social responsibility person, and the other of the Hellenic Entrepreneurship Award person. The Hellenic Entrepreneurship Award stems and was born out of the belief that the economic malaise and the financial crisis shouldn't detour and discourage all those entrepreneurs having a great idea worth pursuing, and taking into account that entrepreneurship is the lifeblood of the economy and the development, whether this is in a thriving economy or during a recession. We had to take action. We, as a Libra. Libra is a global business group, privately owned, that comprises of 30 subsidiaries across 6 continents, operating mainly in 5 fields: shipping, Mr. Patisas, aviation, energy, real estate, and hospitality. And we firmly believe that there are 2 ways of dealing with a problem. One is to complain and condemn and criticize, and the other is to contribute. And I think we did our part, not only, and we are doing our part, not only via the AGA, the Hellenic Commercial Award, but via other worthy causes, worthy initiatives like the Libra Entrepreneurship Award, Libra Internship Program, the Johns Hopkins Libra Partnership, the McCain Institute Libra Partnership, Seleni Institute Concordia Summit, many initiatives. Social responsibility is something that defines us, and back to the Hellenic Entrepreneurship Award, which was founded in 2012. It's fully managed and funded by the Libra Group on behalf of the Hellenic Initiative. The Hellenic Initiative is a nonprofit organization founded mid-2012, and via financial and business programs, this organization aims to help Greece exit the crisis, a bit earlier. So AGA established itself 2012, and it's now an annual award. 1 to 5 winners are drawn each year, and there are 2 main target groups: budding entrepreneurs, new people within the entrepreneurship ecosystem, not necessarily meaning young people only. And the second target group is existing entrepreneurs, experienced entrepreneurs, but aiming and pursuing an idea, an operation different than the current business endeavors. AGA believes that, not only AGA and Libra as well, believes that the underlying strength, the most important asset Greece has, isn't shipping nor tourism, isn't Mykonos nor Santorini, olive oil nor feta. The most important asset Greece has to offer is human capital. And this is what AGA comes in to support. Because we are very driven to encourage participation and to infuse hope, because Greece is starving for both. Many people are denied opportunity in Greece, and besides condemning, criticizing, and complaining, we should do something to help these people. AGA offers Greece-based entrepreneurs free pro bono mentorship, free business support, and interest-free funding. Interest-free, equity-free, risk-free funding. Libra Group has pledged for 7 million euros throughout the lifetime of the program, and this year we have increased the threshold up to 1 million only for the 2015 award. What are we looking for? Viable business ideas, individuals or companies based domiciled in Greece. Innovation, sustainability should be performed and demonstrated. Financial improvements, magic word. And last but not least, and it's not last, job creation. Very important. Very important when we see a nominal, not real, rate of 27% unemployment and 60%, about 60% unemployment amongst young people. What do we offer to these worthy business applications, business ideas? As I said, equity-free, interest-free business, free in the startup, seed money up to 1 million euros. This is money in a form of a loan that should be returned. Just in your case, Mr. Patitsa, when you began your career,
No forgiveness.
no forgiveness. We forgive, we just give out money, but there are covenants here. These people should use the money for the business only. Up to 1 million, 1 to 5 winners. A high caliber mentor is assigned to these ventures, to these companies, to the winners. One of the 30 CEOs of the group's companies across the world. Guide through, mentor, share their networks, dynamics with these newly formed companies. And besides these two, we support them in all those areas, and all those resources that are required, like legal, accounting, IT, marketing, branding, communication, IT, HR, you name it. The application could have been easier. It's an online process. Again, I should mention this is a philanthropic initiative. There's no financial upside, monetary advantage for us. This is a philanthropic initiative, and it's very easy to apply and to just submit your business idea. www.hellenicaward.com. You have the option of registering and building the application over time. Might take more time than needed, but there are deadlines. And you have the option of providing us with supporting documents like balance sheets, financial statements, mock-ups, blueprints, photos, CVs, business plan per se. And throughout the whole period, the users receive email notifications. And what are the criteria? Innovation. These applications should demonstrate a simple way of thinking, and innovation can be sought either the end product, design, during the research, use of media, packaging, routes to market, channels, anywhere. Job creation. The winning ideas should be the ones that show a clear pathway to job creation. This is the main problem we would like to tackle. And financial prudence along with sustainability make up the criteria for applying to the Hellenic Award. Sustainability. This is another magic word. And the lack of sustainability in the business plans submitted so far with seeking funding from the European Union subsidies, and these are billions of euros, wasn't there, unfortunately. So all these business applications should demonstrate the self-sustainability. These businesses should be able to be self-funded throughout the lifetime. After the implementation, after the funds the Hellenic Entrepreneurship Award is providing, these businesses should be self-sustained. Key dates for this year. Towards mid-June, we're going to have the list of finalists announced. And during the week of 22nd June, we will have the winners announced for this year. Again, 1 through 5 winners. And we can see just a blend of people that covers both some of Professor Dr. Cal's presentation, as well as Mr. Tapisa's. By the way, captivating presentations. Stella Mare. This is a modern Popeye. This is a Greek fisherman. And I should go ahead and read according to what has been stipulated by the companies. We have no executive role in these businesses. We have no management decision. We are just supporting them, nothing more than that. A seafood processing and trading business which is targeted at both domestic and global markets. So within 12 hours of having the fish out of the water, the Greek seas, sardines and anchovies are processed, aiming to promote these goods globally, just like Japanese promote sushi and the Scandinavians promote salmon. Great product, they're out there. This is a 2.3 million euro project. They were just lacking 200,000 euros because of the credit crunch. We blended in. They had a great business plan, and here they are, ready. Great business. Casa Parlante, a living museum. depicting the everyday life of a noble family in a historic 19th century mansion in Corfu. This is a museum that recreates the environment of a noble house, noble mansion, a family of aristocrats back in the 19th century, and through dolls with robotic figures and wearing uniforms, local traditional uniforms. It shows to visitors and tourists how people used to live in the island of Corfu. Different. A culinary academy and innovative catering company, excuse me. Mr. Christopher Pesquez happens to be a Boston University graduate, and his partner, Mrs. Margarita Saradopoulou, is a painter. As you can see, Mr. Pesquez might have an educational background, academic background of business administration, but he has no clue what business plan is. The same and even worse for Ms. Saradopoulou. And when she applied, we asked for a cash flow report, and she was frightened. She didn't know what a cash flow report was, but she was passionate enough. She had covered all of the needs, all the questions, and she was one worthy winner. She had generated more than 1.6 million euros in less than 2 years, a year and a half. And one of her major accounts is Google Elas. Eric Schmidt, excuse me. Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, once visited Greece, and he had lunch at the Google Elas premises. He said, the best Google food ever. Rabbit, a platform and mobile tablet application which generates curated video sequence for every user, according to his or her personal preferences. This is a team of 13 people, 2 of which have relocated to NYC, seeking to expand the business here in the States. They're doing really well. Annas Organics. I believe this was covered as well in Dr. Chavez' presentation. Anasa Organics. It's not Anasa, it's Anasa, from Anax, Anakotos, King, and Queen. Anasa is the queen. Organics, a producer of premium herbal teas and infusions, addressing Greek and global market. You should try this one. People love it. E-Satisfaction, an independent platform that records e-shoppers' entire online shopping experience, from browsing to ordering to delivery, set to become a comprehensive e-commerce rating tool. It's a trip advisor of online experience of e-shopping. Open Circle, unique one as well, a web-based equity crowdfunding platform where visionary entrepreneurs present their business concepts and engage with investors who may wish to participate. So you have a meeting point of both investors seeking smart and confident investments and companies seeking for funds. And they meet. RT-Safe, this is not, Open Circle is not a crowdfunding platform, it's an equity crowdfunding platform. RT-Safe, this comes from the medical industry, revolutionary approach to optimizing the effectiveness of radiotherapy for cancer patients while minimizing the likelihood of harmful side effects. What this basically means is that this doctor, Mr. Papas, created a method whereby a clone, a phantom of the human head is created. And before the human undergoes radiotherapy, this phantom takes the burden of the X-rays first. And they calibrate all the whole process on this phantom and then on the patient. So it optimizes the final result, minimizing and mitigating harmful X-rays hitting healthy tissue. We have proud supporters supporting this initiative. And besides the founding sponsor of the Libra Group, we have partners like Jalouis. This is a Greek Australian company, third generation Greeks. They have contributed 250,000 US dollars. We have Piraeus Bank via the Center of Entrepreneurship called Excelixi. They provide services, training, and support to all our winners, and not only the winners. Dimitri Moulandris, another well-known ship owner, shipping family member. He has contributed 250,000 euros. And we have proud winner supporters contributing pro bono business support, like the Liquidation law offices, providing legal support, like Antidote, graphic arts designer, digital media as well, Microsoft, People for Business, Reed Smith, a law firm, SAP, S&P. Great entrepreneurs have the courage to follow dreams. This entails risk, and I usually say that instead of blood running in the veins of entrepreneurs, risk should run in the veins. Failing is not bad, as long as you know why you failed. And HEA provides the support to make dreams come true for the winners. HEA sees a future in the business ideas, so if you have any bright applications, bright ideas, please feel free. We encourage you to apply. The HEA 2016 is on the portas around end of October, early November. We will open up the system again. And I would like to thank you, and I can take any questions, please. Charlie. Thank you so much.
Excellent presentation. I wanted to ask, how many applicants do you get a year? And do you see people reapplying stronger applications year after year as the program is more popular?
Thank you for the question. So far we have more than 3,600 people that have applied, 3,600 people. Out of these, the eligible business plans exceed 1,500. And we, of course, see people applying and reapplying, but enhancing their business plan and making it stronger, which shows that Greeks see value in entrepreneurship. And of course, entrepreneurship is in the DNA of Greeks. But Greeks are just finding their way. They're building up a strong ecosystem in Greece. And I'm very happy to see that your company from the States will be developed or probably shortlisted, as it is, through Metavalor. So far, we have 10 finalists each year, HEA 2013, HEA 2014. So 10, 20, 10 for this year, 30. We also support these people as well by providing them a fast track MBA, seminars, trainings, soft skills development. And it's only have been a development, and a positive sign is next to them because it's the only way forward, unfortunately. Thank you. Yes, please. Both ways, either way. Funding is dispersed according to the needs, the financial and capital needs of each company, each applicant. So, of course, we will give out money as requested, but this has to be substantiated and correlated directly to the actual business plan. So it goes both ways.
So when someone is awarded funding, what success rate is it to exit commercialization, whatever the objective is? Do you follow the process together? Do you just support them with the initial funding? And then I think it's a amazing program. It's very encouraging and inspiring to see that the private sector initiatives like this. But you don't take equity, you don't lend money to charge interest. I don't know why everybody's not
First of all, we did a review and assessment and evaluation process very rigorous.
All of them, even though you're not involved.
Yes. We support them at each phase and stage. We are next to them, not only by providing them with our expertise and experience, but advising them. We have no management role, no executive role, no decision-making role within these ventures. But these people are very thirsty to get to know what we think about their next steps. And so far, speaking of rates, we have 8 out of 8 companies doing well, which is out of this universe. West Coast VCs, venture capitalists, and investors say that 1 out of 10 usually make it. So far, within these less than 2 years, we have 8 out of 8 because we care for these businesses as if these businesses were subsidiaries of Libra Group. And we are very, very keen that these companies will make it at the end, and they should meet their business objectives. No pledge of assets, no equity, yes, that's why I stressed out, and that was our aim, to reduce the barriers in the forefront of entrepreneurship.
I guess my skepticism comes in, that's great to reduce the barriers, but then there has to be accountability. And often if there isn't accountability and monitoring control, then, once they get money, that's what I find. It dissipates when they got money. So without us taking a firm position, that it's often more challenging to get quality advice. That's my experience.
I couldn't agree more with you. Instilling accountability in a person or a company has larger effect and outcome than actually controlling. As I said, it's not an easy process declining people. It's not an easy process digging in each business plan and each team, because you might have a great and worthy winner business-wise, but is there the team? Is there a team behind this business plan that will undertake the burden of implementing this venture, this business plan? So there are many questions to answer, and we undergo a very rigorous evaluation and assessment process. So a lot of that value is seen within this process, and of course, the other half, if I should say, is infused in the implementation period. Yes, please. Thank you.
Excellent presentation and very generous program. If I understood it correctly, if they fail, they don't have to pay back their own money. What happens if they succeed? Probably you said it, but I didn't quite understand. What kind of, not fiscal, but moral obligations the recipients have towards you and the rest of the people if they succeed? Is there any?
There's one.
Which is?
They shouldn't follow negative practices as known in the Greek entrepreneurial system, like corruption. There's a clear, firm stipulation in our agreements. That is the only moral obligation. It will be a breach of the agreement if these companies or people of these companies are found to be practicing corruption, bribery, and so on. This is the only moral obligation. There is no financial upside for the Hellenic Entrepreneurship Board, and this should be stressed out. No financial upside. This is a philanthropic, purely genuine philanthropic initiative.
I understand, but this would be multiplied if the people who succeed were returning something not as a payback, but so that you can help more people in the future. Is there any?
Great question, and as a matter of fact, you are in our minds. When we paved the way to commence the initiate HEA, the Hellenic Entrepreneurship Board, it was one of our issues we were contemplating. Should we make these people socially responsible as well? As a matter of fact, we will, but not at this stage, because this is a early seed stage. So we are trying to minimize the barriers for these companies and the costs, mitigate all the costs, even being socially responsible for now. They are under a certain specific mission to establish themselves, to create fully fledged companies, and when this happens, then yes, but there is no clear formal stipulation in the agreement so far.
Because the effect would be exponential. If everyone who succeeds help another 10 people succeed, then within a generation or two, you have a tremendous network of people who help each other succeed and help the society in general.
Absolutely coinciding with what we said earlier, there are two other ways two other approaches in life: asking for more and giving. The more you ask for, the more you want. The more you give. Just imagine if giving goes viral. Greece wouldn't have been experiencing these dire times. So yes, we are on the same page. Yes,
Let me ask a two-part question. First of all, I'm familiar with HEA, you're doing a great job. Congratulations. Would you have more impact if you gave out less money to more teams? One. Number two, would you have more long-term impact if you actually took some equity, took some of those funds that came back to you, and really made the program self-sustaining over a long period of time?
thank you. I'll start off answering the second question, trying to answer the second question. We try to avoid putting barriers in business plans. So if somebody asks for 200,000 euros, we are willing, and the framework is there to give and to fund them 200,000 euros. We shouldn't go into a process of negotiating with these winners. Number two, we refrain from even thinking about getting equity in these companies, because it will change the whole concept, the whole philanthropic concept of HEA. So that's why we do not want to engage in any investment processes. And I think it will remain this way. But yes, sustainability is key here. And the first question is, HEA has created an impact. Indeed, we see that. We have received thousands of emails, thousands of letters congratulating Mr. George Lowehead, Libra Group, HEA, for this initiative. And we had only 8 winners. So the thank you letters and the congratulations we have received are far more than the thank you, than the winners, which is proof that it's a very impactful cause. We would like this to go viral. We encourage other people to blend in. And since then, we have seen tens of award schemes. But holistically supporting entrepreneurship is something else. Because you see banks, financial institutions, financial organizations not giving out money. Money is key. Not the most important of the resources, but it's key. It's highly needed, highly required, because it's the lifeblood of the venture, the free enterprise. So I think we will carry on. There is scarcity of resources, so we have 7 million euros pledged, and we so far have dispersed more than 1.2 plus 1 this year, 2.2 million. And we are not commercializing more, making any advertising campaigns. It's a word to mouth, mouth to word, mouth to ear process. And we just aim seeing it going viral. Have I covered your question?
Well, not really. So the first part was, a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you, like Dimitri, maybe, give me $25,000, give me $50,000. That's all I'm willing to take off. So why don't you have more winners with less money being allocated? Is really the question I have. As opposed to having, less winners with a lot more money. You could have more winners with less amounts. That was really the question.
We aimed small S and SMEs. So by giving out 10, 15, 20, 25,000, the impact will be a lot smaller compared to the impact rated company that requires 200, 300, 400, or 1 million euros. So everything is relative. And we compare it on that basis.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. We don't have another time for our questions. We'll continue the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next on the schedule is our beloved Dr. Lakis Mutiris. He will talk about, he's a professor of chemical engineering here at the University of Massachusetts, and he will talk about the university as an economic engine.
Thank you very much. I'm standing between all of you and your lunch break, so I will try to be brief and entertaining. I will. So it's the Greek. Yeah. Put my own gear here. It's all right. So good morning, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to discuss a little bit about my views of the Greek university as an economic engine. I'm going to broaden a little bit and connect the university to the private sector, industry, what we call in Greece παραγωγική διαδικασία. So, to start my presentation, I will introduce myself so that you know the angle I'm coming from. Then I will discuss strictly higher education for a few minutes and how the Greek university can be reformed without doing anything really very dramatic. Then I will discuss the industry-university interface and how the research institutes that are already in Greece and in which the government and the European Union have invested a lot of money can be actually exploited for economic development. Discuss also translational research and the efforts that exist for moving research from the universities and the research institutes to the private sector. We'll discuss my view of a few opportunities for economic development, low-hanging fruit. It's just sitting out there, it's ready to be picked. And then I'm gonna give you a little bit, hopefully, an inspiring story about my brother, who is a serial entrepreneur, so to speak, but not of the type that you can imagine. So keep this as a surprise at the end. So let me start by introducing myself. So I was born and raised in Seres, which is a small town in the northern part of Greece. So I grew up about 20 miles from what people called at the time the Iron Curtain. So the basic economic drive of the area was agriculture when I was a kid, and military installations. Probably 1 out of 2 people in my hometown was a soldier or a military officer. That was because of the Cold War and the political situation at the time. I come from very humble roots. My paternal grandfather was a sharecropper in Thessaly. So around 100 years ago, he acquired for the first time land. And he had 6 children. My father was the only person that kind of escaped the illiteracy and the agrarian community where he was brought in. And actually, ironically, what helped him escape was the war. Because he was 15 years old when the war started. At 16, he was part of the Greek resistance in 1941. Then he joined the Greek army. And then he wanted to go to Korea because he had nothing else to do. So they took him off the boat in Polos. And because he managed to finish high school during those years in the army, they sent him off to a remote village in Macedonia to be a teacher. That's where he met my mother. My mother came from a low middle class family from Ceres. And she was the brightest student in the area. So she got the Fulbright Award to come to the United States. But you know what happened? At the time, the woman, a girl, 18 years old, coming to the United States to study, this was vetoed by the family. So the local officials arranged for her to become a teacher. And she was sent to the same village where my father was sent. So that's how my beginnings started. The village actually is one of those villages that are part of the Greek Holocaust. It's called Kirdilia. It is on the road of Thessaloniki to Kavala. And there, one of the first mass executions by the Nazis happened. So my parents were the first teachers of that village right after it was rebuilt through the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan. So that's where I come from. So I'm the son of two teachers, and this is the area where I grew up. This is the little town square in Ceres. This picture was taken in 1970. So my world was this little square. This was the house. This right here was the house where I spent my formative years. This is the metropolis, the main church in Ceres. And as you see, it's half built because they ran out of money. This is the high school that I attended. And this was really my world up until 1977. So what happened in 1977, I became part of the people who will try to go to the university. And my only career orientation was the following sentence. If you are good enough, try to go to the department that has the highest score, highest minimal score to be admitted in. And at the time, in science and engineering, these were the departments of chemical engineering. There were two of them, one in Athens, the other in Thessaloniki. I had no idea what chemical engineering is, but I knew that if I scored high enough to get into one of those, I would be in the local news. And that was good enough. That was my career orientation. So I managed to score high enough. I started at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in 1977. One of my teachers there was a person who spoke in this conference, Professor Georgakis, who came actually from MIT. He was teaching at MIT at the time. He came to Greece. So he was my undergraduate advisor. So he is somebody who shaped me in my early years. So I finished in 1982. My father was a person, already I told you about him. My father was a person that would take no prisoners. So he told me, if you finish, don't come back to Ceres. I have nothing to give you. I have some books. That's about it. Try to find something to do. And then when I finished, and I did quite well, there was no opportunity to get a job in Greece. My only opportunity was to go to the army and freelance, but the future was not really rosy for chemical engineers in 1982. I already had a young wife who was also a chemical engineer. I met her in college. The two of us decided to take our chances and come to the United States. So we applied for graduate school. She got admitted at the University of Illinois. I got admitted at Princeton and also the University of Illinois. So you may ask me, why didn't I go to the University of Illinois? Because my university or my department, I was the first person who was admitted to Princeton. So they told me, you have to go there because this will open a door. And who adapted to this? My wife adapted to this. So for the first year after we came to the United States, she declined the offer from the University of Illinois and she tried to get into Princeton. She got into Princeton the second year, not in the same department. But we did all these kind of adjustments to some extent also to carry the torch, because the convenient part for us would be to go to the University of Illinois. Then, of course, I finished at some point in 1987, and I had some options there: go back to Greece, go to the army, and then try to get into probably a research institute or a university. Get into the private sector. I get a very lucrative offer at the time to work for self-developing company, or follow the family tradition and become a professor. And that was actually my objective from the beginning. So I bypassed an offer for $60,000 to work for self-development in Amsterdam. $60,000 a year was a lot of money at the time. And I took an offer for 18 with a wife and a little kid to be a postdoctoral associate at the University of Minnesota. But I joined the top department of chemical engineering in the world. The department actually that we put MIT, which is now the #1 to shame. And my advisor there is now the department head of chemical engineering at MIT. So I work there with the best people you can meet in my field. And that was all the money for me. Why am I telling you these stories? I tell you these stories because unless you take those risks, you never accomplish your goals. So I don't know how happy I would be with the other part. I know I'm happier now. So what did I do after that? I went to Buffalo, New York. So I moved from Minnesota, a very cold place, to a less cold but very snowy place, and became a professor at the State University of New York at Buffalo. I stayed there for 16 years, and I moved through the ranks, and I was always interested in making something outside the university, like connecting what I was doing with the private sector. So I started working with a lot of companies, some small, some big in the area. Then at some point, I got a phone call about an opportunity to go to the National Science Foundation. So I joined the candidate list for a position of program director. I spent 2 years working for the US government while still being affiliated with the university. And then I moved to Massachusetts. There was another phone call in 2005, around this time of the year. And I moved to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And there I moved as professor in chemical engineering. While in Buffalo, I started patenting some technologies that were developed in my lab in collaboration with other groups. And I continued this in Massachusetts, and there is a company actually up the road from here, which is based on my patents. And I became, through that discovery, startup domain. The company now is in its 5th year, starting its 5th year. It has gone through ups and downs. Now it sees a little bit light at the end of the tunnel. And we hope to be able to commercialize technologies that have to do with photonic crystals, which exhibit quantum confinement phenomena. How is higher education in Greece looking? So my experience from that, and still this hasn't changed much, is that we have high school, we have the frontistery or cram school, as they call it in Taiwan, and you have private tutors, and you pay a lot of money. So my parents spent a lot of money on me to go to frontistery for 3 years in order to be as competitive as I could to get into the university. I told you about my career orientation. Like if you're good, I become a chemical engineer. If you don't get there, you're not as good as others who might get in. Then I went through a brutal nationwide entrance exam. People complain right now about this panlinia and exedasis. If you have taken panlinia, at the time it was like it's a week, yes. When I took those exams back then, what people are having right now, both in terms of material they have to study and in terms of the environment they take it in, is It's completely different. So first of all, people from small towns like me could not take the exam in SERS. I had to go to Thessaloniki. We didn't know anybody at Thessaloniki, so we had to stay either with distant relatives or in hotels. So you have this 17-year-old kid who has been to the big city a couple of times, going there in August in very hot weather and competing with all the other aspiring kids, while having an environment where, for example, transmission of the problems was done over the radio. I remember once there was a radio transmission problem. Instead of the exam being 3 hours, it was 6 hours. They were not allowed to leave the high school, but there's no air conditioning. And I could see from the distance all the parents on a little hill in Harilao with candles. This is like an Angelopoulos movie. Okay, so the little church ran out of candles and they were holding the candles while the kids were confined in that room. So these were the conditions. It has improved a lot since then. And the problem that still exists is you are admitted to a specific department. What happened if I didn't like chemical engineering? I had no option. You stay there or you go out, take the exam again, try to get into some other department. There was no lateral mobility in the university. This is a tremendous problem. You force kids to study something that may absolutely hate because career orientation actually is completely lacking. So this needs somehow to be resolved. And then you get to the university and the adventure begins. And this is how the university looked at the time. And pretty much many of these elements are still the same. So you get these very intelligent and aspiring students. So next week I'm going to be in Athens. One of my classmates is getting into the Academy of Athens. So I can argue that the people I went to school with were tremendously accomplished people. So you throw them into this pressure cooker, where you have faculty that actually are mostly outstanding. You have the curriculum that needs updating, but that cannot be done easily in Greece. And there was research going on even at the time when I was in the university. Actually, I published a paper with work essentially that I did in Thessaloniki back in the 80s. The government puts in funding and occasionally you get facilities, but you're also stuck with administration that might be very flexible and controlled by the government. And then on the other end, you have the instability. You have political parties, and you have this tremendous thing that happens in Greece as parental expectations. I'll tell you a little a funny story about my father. When I was a postdoc, my father didn't understand what postdocs are, or doctoral scholars. So he thought it's a much lesser thing. So he was doing his PhD, he got his PhD, and now he's what? So he started telling people in the coffee shop in the cafe near that I was working at NASA. So I would go to, because it sounded better. And I told him, don't say that. I said, well, it's important for people to understand what you're doing. And those are parents' expectations, all very well meant. But the pressure I have seen being applied to kids in Greece is incredible. And this actually should change. The other pressure is actually prevents kids from tasting the real world. I was not allowed to work during the summers because I was the son of two teachers. So I had to spend, I had tremendous vacations because teachers in Greece have, 2+ months off. 2 salaries, so we have tremendous vacations. And the only good thing that happened during those vacations is that I was allowed to work in the little piece of land that we get near the sea. So I learned how to do gardening, which I use now, and I learned how to build some things with my hands. But many other kids that were just wasting their summers away, pretty much not doing anything productive. There is a little bit more engaged university system. So that instability down here has to go. This story about asylum and having people who are outside the university occupy space. There is a room in the National Technical University that is constantly being occupied. Those things have to be eliminated. That requires political will and requires also kind of like support from all the stakeholders. So instead of having these instabilities, we need to introduce positive things like internships for students, practical training, professional networking, couple everything with industry. So I was on a review board for the National Technical University in Athens, and I visited both the research facilities, and some of those are outstanding. In fact, one of my colleagues, who is a professor in Athens, was admitted or elected to the National Academy of Engineering in the United States this past year. So faculty, you can find outstanding faculty that can compete with anybody in the world. They can put anybody to shame. Surprisingly, you can find facilities too. But then there is an interface, and suddenly you go from this spectacular academic ecosystem into what you might call not third world, not even third world. Third world, you might think India. We're below that. You find an ecosystem which is tragic, where people have destroyed rooms, have destroyed doors, they are camping into rooms. This thing has to stop. It's an absolute tragedy. This is a modern tragedy of the Greek university. So we need to acquire the guts in order to have the glory, and we need to clean up the university. The other thing we need to do is we need to do enrollment management. So when I was in chemical engineering, Greece was officially producing 50 chemical engineers from Athens and 50 chemical engineers from Thessaloniki. By the time I graduated, my class had inflated to 70, 75 because there were all these transfers from Romania and all other places, which is fine, but it has to be managed somehow. You cannot just let everybody in and then produce hundreds of engineers that we don't need. Right now, I think they're producing something of the order of 400, 450 maybe per year officially. There are hundreds of students that are stagnant. These are called gymnasiums in Greece. This is a tremendous waste of talent. People are wasting away their lives, but the parents are happy. You know why the parents are happy? Because the students stay in the university, and they're going to become scientists. They're going to become scientists with zero value, actually with negative value, because they're going to go out with resentment and entitlement. They will ask for society to fix their own problems, which actually society or the government created at the front end. So it's a vicious, unstable system that has to be solved at the front end, and people have to be educated that now they can, spread their wings. They can do some entrepreneurship. They can try things. So there are people who wait for 10 years living in their parents' house to find a job, and the ideal job, of course, goes in the public sector. I'll tell you a story when we come to my brother in a few minutes. But there is hope. So they're tremendous institutes. I call them tremendous because I visited several of them. And the facilities are excellent, the people are excellent. The funding is not as good as it should be, so they need a little bit more attention. But some of these people are extremely competitive. They're getting grants from the European Union. So there is a lot of work that is done in these institutes, and they have also been associated with incubators. I'll show you a list of all the incubators in Greece. So this is the fourth institute, the Foundation for Research and Technology. The last, they have a big base in Heraklion at the University of Crete, Rethymnon, Patras, Ioannina, and they have also an incubator in Crete. And then there is the National Center for Science and Technology, and this is based in Thessaloniki with an institute also in Thessaly involved. And one of the people who were the founders of the first such institute was Professor Georgakis, who came from MIT at a very young age, and also Professor Passalos. These were the people who actually formed me. because they were the young, aspiring Greek professors who came from the United States to motivate the young people to do something beyond what they were dreaming at the time. So this infrastructure has been established. Are we taking advantage of it? Of course not. There are some foreign companies that take advantage of it. So I know that there are petrochemical companies from Western Europe that are coupled to the Institute in Thessaloniki, but there is very little or much less being done within Greece. So this is the list of all these technology parks. These are incubators. And, I found 7 of them, and they're pretty much spread all over the country. But if you visit their website, some of them may have 1 or 2 companies. You may see one of the companies kind of like a local bank. So there's not much activity, and there are reasons for that. There are risks to do business in Greece. The ecosystems are very small. Small companies need ecosystems to thrive. So in Boston, there is a tremendous ecosystem for small companies, but if you come to Springfield, Massachusetts, close to where I live, there's no ecosystem, there's no startup there. And the government here in Massachusetts always says, okay, we're going to do startups in Springfield. They're not going to be able to do that. My company, which is not mine, is not in Springfield, it's in Boston. There's a good reason that the company is here, because you find this ecosystem. So this has to be created. So in other words, if there are some areas where this ecosystem cannot be created, we shouldn't be investing money. We should invest the money where the ecosystem actually can thrive. That's the money up front. Tax and labor laws in Greece need to be adapted because there is a tremendous uncertainty. There is also political uncertainty. Supply chain problems have to be resolved also in order to allow small businesses to thrive. And of course, funding has to become available. Some of this funding maybe will become available from abroad, from Greek entrepreneurs who live abroad. The opportunities are tremendous. I always advertise the highly educated, intelligent workforce, and this is not an understatement. We have a highly educated workforce in Greece, despite all these problems. So people know the stuff, and the proof of how good they are and what they do is that when they go abroad and find this welcoming ecosystem, how much they accomplish. So this is a tremendous resource. We have outstanding researchers in Greek universities. Sometimes we're overlooking them, and we're not very proud of them, but we should be. There are people in Greek universities doing research that, as I mentioned, would put to shame any researcher anywhere in their field around the globe. And they're doing it in a resource-limited environment, which is even more amazing. This is a tremendous resource for Greece. I think we have the best geographical location. I can share with you over lunch. I mean, you probably know the joke about how Greeks ended up living in Greece. If you don't know that joke, it's a good one. I'll tell you that joke when we, go to lunch. You probably heard it before, correct?
Just say no.
You want the joke now? Okay, how Greece ended up living in Greece. So you know that the territory of the world was given to the different nations right after the biblical story of the Babel Tower, where they started speaking different languages. So they started having a problem with communication, so God decided to divide the territory and send people who speak separate languages. It's a joke, but it's a good one. Separate areas. So the good Lord sent the herald angels and said, okay, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, out there in the open, all of you have to go there, divide yourselves in nations or people who speak languages, and I'm going to divide the territory. So who were the first in line? You can guess the Germans were first. Okay, got up at 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, they were in line, the Japanese, so they started taking the territory. And work was pretty much done. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the Greeks show up. They were partying all night, they were jubilant. And God looks at the list and says, there's nothing much left. I can see Greenland, I can see Antarctica, and there's this little piece of land that I wanted to keep for myself for my retirement, but since I don't plan to retire anytime soon, go and take care of that land. And when time comes to retire, I may take it back from you. That's how we ended up there. Okay? My American friends love this. Because they always claim, Greeks go to meetings a little bit late, and I told them, we were very late one time, that's why we ended up taking it. Okay? So geographical location is tremendous. Of course, we have these values. We have hospitality, philosophy, resilience. Not many other nations can actually claim that they have the resilience we have. And work ethic. What are the opportunities? Some low-hanging fruit. So higher education, a very, very low-hanging fruit. The fruit that starts at the ground is to introduce summer courses in English in many disciplines, especially freshman, sophomore year. I have students, not few, tens of students from the University of Massachusetts who come to me and say, can I go to Greece over the summer and take an intensive course whose credits I can move back to UMass and spend there a terrific summer in Greece, and they're willing to pay. And we should be ready to actually take this income for the country. I can give you an idea. For a summer course, somebody in State University here might pay, together with the fees, about $2,000. So imagine if you have hundreds of students taking courses, and per course you charge them $2,000, and they are happy because they study abroad. They're going to put it in their resume. They study in a dreamland. They transfer the credits. Why aren't we doing it? And if the professors who live in Greece don't want to do it, then they can do it because they can get extra income from that. They can invite people from abroad. There are going to be plenty of people who will go there because the instruction will be in English, who, for a nominal fee, will teach a course, and the university will make a lot of money. So I think this needs to be done. And we need to have strategic partnerships with foreign universities because there are students who want to go to Greece and study, and they can't find the avenue. And those students, of course, are accustomed to paying money. They're not like the students in Greece. So they are accustomed to paying a lot of money for the privilege of studying in the university. So they can provide a significant income for the country. Software engineering, I'm pretty sure this was touched. The Greek mind, I think, can thrive in this field because this combines mathematics with practical applications. We have somehow in our education, or traditionally, we have a very strong mathematical component, and we have this native ingenuity to connect things. In fact, when I was coming to the United States, probably 9 out of 10 Greeks were involved in a heavily mathematical PhD, not experimental. Somehow I escaped and I started doing experiments at some point, but I was the exception, not the rule. And my mathematical training is still with me. So software engineering, computer science, those kinds of things, we can do very well. They require very simple infrastructure. There is good connectivity in Greece. You can get the internet pretty much everywhere. Maybe not as fast as we would like, but fast definitely in some areas where small companies can be located. So this is still a great opportunity. Food science. So one thing that you will notice is that in Greece, food science is taught in KE, chemistry, and chemical engineering. I took a course in food science, and people wanted to avoid that course because it was a little bit descriptive. It was not as mathematical as the others. But there should be food science departments. Actually, there should be departments called food science and engineering. Because we have this tremendous opportunity to be the California or the Florida of Europe. And we're squandering this opportunity. We're completely squandering this opportunity. And we can develop greenhouses. I have a very good friend who's a professor in Massachusetts who is from Myrtos, a very interesting and very nice place to visit near the Arapatra. If you go to Myrtos, you'll be amazed with the greenhouses they have. They even have a statue of a Dutchman who actually introduced them to greenhouses in the 70s, and all the people there actually, the funny story is that the land there is not very good, but because of the greenhouses, everybody's a millionaire. And they export vegetables that we eat in the northern part of the country, and also all over Europe. I have a very good friend from high school who followed a different path from me, and he's now in Germany. Actually, he works for a company that manages supermarkets. And he comes to Greece and buys vegetables for the German company. And he always discusses about the tremendous opportunities that we have to really dominate that sector. Something needs to be done. This is really low-hanging fruit. I'll tell you a funny story about my late father. So when he visited the United States for the first time, we went to the supermarket and he saw that pomegranate you could buy at the time for $1 each. Now it's, I think, $2. And he was cutting back all the pomegranate trees because they were a nuisance in his property. Because they have thorns, pomegranate trees have thorns. So when he went back, he never touched the pomegranate tree again. So now, of course, there are companies in Greece that do pomegranate juice. I know of a venture in the Ceres region. So these are the fruits of the land that good Lord gave to us when we bought the real estate. And we're not taking full advantage of it. So I put here specialty chemicals and reagents for life sciences. And then you can say, gee, this cannot be done in Greece. And actually, we're very wrong. There are certain areas that can be done better in Greece than in the United States. For specialty chemicals that come from plants, we have a great variety of aromatic plants. These are tremendously high value-added products. Whatever it has to do with these chemicals and fragrances, the company actually should be located in Greece, not in the United States. And when it comes to biological reagents, especially animal testing facilities, whatever needs to be done in an animal farm, you can harvest antibodies, etc. Greece has tremendous opportunity in getting into that field. This last part requires discipline, because you're dealing with biological components. So you really have to be disciplined. But I think the new workforce in Greece and the new people, like the young people in this room, can actually provide this discipline. And those opportunities exist in other fields too. So I'm going to finish by telling you a few things about my brother. So I have one brother who's 3 years younger than me. So you can imagine how much pressure he had to follow my footsteps. The pressure was tremendous. So he took the entrance exam, and he ended up getting into what you might call a KE, CATE at the time, which was not a university. This was not good enough for my father. My father said, you're slacking off. You have to go to Italy. That's what people were doing at the time. So he was willing to pay money to send him to Italy. So off he went to Perugia, and the old man was very happy. He would go to the coffee shop and tell the other people that his son was actually at the university. So he stayed in Perugia for 2 years. He learned fluent Italian. And then he decided to become a physicist. The idea was, if you become a physicist, you can be a teacher in high school. So there is a backup position. And he following the advice of my father, he found the most challenging physics department in Italy at the University of Trieste, where they have Nobel laureates, most prestigious physics department was at the time. So there comes my brother there, and he started studying physics, and things were going okay, but things were tough, and the years went by, until at some point I couldn't take it any longer. And his regular visits to Greece were on a bus by Sismanidis tours that would take 22 hours to go from Thessaloniki, and this will drop him off like, half exhausted, and he will take the Tel Seron to come to Ceres, and but the parents were elated. I still remember it was the summer I was visiting Greece. We were sitting at the little veranda there in the little place we have by the sea. And I tell my father, I think your son is coming. So there is this bus coming, I can like the movies. And my brother comes out with 2 big suitcases in what you might call 40 degrees Celsius weather, and he starts walking toward the house. And my father says, no, this is not my son. My son is taking exams now in the physics department, and he's going to be a Nobel physicist one day. But it was his son who had quit, and he was coming in. That summer, we had, my father was depressed. We had him with tremendous pesetas at this. How are we going to show up back in the town in September and say that the kid quit? So I left. I was in the United States. So the kid went back and of course joined the army. He had to go to the army. So in the army, he had to pick up some skills. He was smart enough that he had to use the 2 years at the time in the army to pick up skills. So he learned how to fix cars, and he learned how to paint cars. So he learned mechanical things. And he told me that there was plenty of opportunity to make mistakes, because if you are fixing a Jeep or you are painting a Jeep, you can paint, anything. But then towards the end, he would paint the real cars, the ones that the superiors, the officers were driving, and he would get time off. So what we can say, can you paint, this fender? You get an extra day. So he comes out, and now he wants to start the business. How do you start the business in this? With the skills that he had. High school in a small town. Not much opportunity, but he knew how to fix cars. So with very little money that he borrowed actually from my mother, because he was not comfortable discussing this business that he started with my father, he started buying used cars. He would find garages in the area that had downtime and rent time in the garage with the tools, go fix the cars, and sell the cars. So without having a lot. So he would park the cars around the town, but you are allowed, I think, to own something like 6 cars at a time, until the tax laws would get, really to hammer you. So he ended up having some relatives, not my father. My mother at some point was owning 6 cars without having a driver's license. True story. And he started selling the cars, making money. And because he was living with the parents, so he was still in his 20s, he was putting the money, I remember at the time, into Trapeza Pistos. So here's the funny story. So my father one day goes to Trapeza Pistos where he gets his little money. And the person who was running the branch says, oh, Mr. Bunziaris, come over, what kind of coffee do you like to offer, for me to offer you? So he was amazed. So he had coffee, very pleasant conversation, goes back to my mother and says, the service in Trapeza Pistos has changed dramatically. and then my mother repeated to him, it's not because of you, she told him, because of your kid, because your kid has significant money now in Trapeza Pistos, way more than what you have. And he's a little businessman, and that's why you get these perks. And that's why he got this revelation that his kid, who was going to be the Nobel physicist, was selling used cars, was a used car repairman and salesman. So that business went okay for some time, but you cannot do it forever. So then he started the business with gas stations, something that had to do with cars. So he found a partner, so he got a gas station, and he was working pretty much 24 hours a day because gas stations had a brutal business. And the profit margin is tremendously small, and in Greece you can't compete because prices are fixed, and there's a lot of corruption, there was at least, and so he was not competitive. So that business actually failed. Then he started this business. So it had to do with cars. And somehow, as he always jokes with me, he ended up with education. So he tried to penetrate a very closed profession, which was driving schools. At the time, there were about 10 in Ceres. And the people who were actually testing whoever wanted to become a teacher were the people who had driving schools. So nobody was getting a license, only the people who had the driving schools. So somehow there was somebody whose son was not interested through serendipity and good luck. He managed to get the license to start the driving school. So getting a driving school actually was a good business because it was a closed profession. But things changed very, very quickly because now people began driving schools by going to university, by going to TE. So driving schools now in Ceres and other places, these are like pharmacies. Every little corner is a driving school because they get a license, not by penetrating this closed profession, but by going to school and getting a license. So he realized that he had to move fast and grow. And he managed to grow against, that's why I admire him, against the economic climate. The economic climate was going down, and my brother was growing his business. And he did this, he realized there's going to be a workforce coming out of these schools. So he could hire these people, offer the infrastructure, and split the profit. And that's what he did. So, you see all these cars now? You see a bus? You see a truck? So he went out and he started enlarging his business. And he would find educated workforce very willing, tremendous people who would come work for him, fresh out of school, after serving the army, because they were offered an immediate way to make money. And he started having different offices. He didn't franchise, he controls the places that he has. And then, of course, the past few years, he got hammered. So now he has only 2 locations. He used to have 4. But he's surviving. He's doing much better than the average, person who is his age in this kind of domain. So what did he prove to me? He proved to me that you have to study a little bit the climate, but you should not be afraid to take risks. Fail, get up, try again. So that's all I had to share with you. I would be happy to answer questions, and we can continue also answering them over lunch. So thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to comment on my family's from Chios and Mimosas. So Chios is obviously renowned for its export of mastika products.
Of course.
It's a perfect example of not maximizing opportunities and the sort of the lack of ability to self-brand and have
Yes.
much for its spirit. The only mastika shops I know of, the chain store mastika shop, is in Athens Airport and in Chios as well. And the reason being is that the mastikapodi, the 7 villages in the south of Chios that produce it, are heavily regulated, heavily taxed and controlled by labor unions. Sindicalist months, they totally destroyed the possibilities for expanding this. So I guess, in a sense, these products would have massive potential.
I agree with you.
Like William Sonoma. And
Yes.
here, people would be all over that. But the thing is, there's this lack of, I guess, ability to bring the things from closed markets to the open.
That's why there should be some protection that comes from the government for this kind of enterprises. Without that protection, we're squandering these opportunities. You mentioned mastika. Mastika has also a tremendous story that comes with it. So you don't only sell the product, you sell also the story with the product. And many people will buy the product both for its benefits, but also because it's a discussion item. The same thing applies to some specialty wines. There are some wines, there are some indigenous varieties. Of course, you can grow Merlot in this. You can grow Cabernet Sauvignon. But you can grow Malagousia in this, which is an indigenous variety. And you can put a story there. And when I bring Malagousia from Thessaloniki, they want to try that wine. It doesn't matter how it tastes. Okay? Because most people are not these connoisseurs that actually will taste chocolate in a wine. They want the wine to taste pleasant, and they want the wine to have a story. So the same applies with mastica. The same applies with Greek Mountain tea. I have a friend in college who's Chinese, and he's into tea. So he came to my place and get Greek Mountain tea. He said, this tea can make millions in China. Because it's different, it's very tasty, and it has a story behind it. So those are the things we need to explore, the whole package. And you sell a little, package at much higher price. These opportunities exist in this.
As you said, these are pre-existing markets, pre-existing infrastructure that all it needs is beneficial fees.
Exactly. And some protection, yeah. so that you have some tax protection and you have some labor protection. So somebody will not come in and close the door and not allow your trucks to go through because somehow they don't like the fact that you came from the United States. So I'll tell you the other story, which has to do with this. When I visited this certified room in National Technical University, my colleagues there told me not to open the door because I might get shot or whatever. So I opened the door. I went there in the morning on purpose because all these people sleep in the morning. So they're not really, they're really active in the afternoon. So you go in the morning, they're really dormant. So I opened the door, so there were people sleeping on the floor. There was some illegal radio station in the corner. So one of those people asked me, who are you? And you know what was my answer? Look at the the establishment. And of course, I didn't have time to strike a conversation, but I'm not the establishment. Okay? I told you that my grandfather was a sharecropper. In fact, I don't have it with me. I have my ID, my first ID that I got with Taftot in 1974, and it was during the military dictatorship. You know how they labeled leftists from, right sympathizers on the Taftot? You know that? That's how they put the stamp. If the cross on the stamp, Ελληνική Δημοκρατία, was turned to the left, the more to the left means you're a communist. The more to the right, it means that you're with the king. Okay, somewhere in the middle is Enos Kendro. Mine is to the left. Not because I had any political affiliation at the time, but my grandfather was labeled a communist. He was in Hilaire. Okay? Actually, my grandfather was illiterate. If you ask me about the Bolsheviks in Russia, he would say, they copied us. Because they were ahead of them. Okay? And he would vote Kukue, not because he understood what Kukue does. He would vote Kukue because he thought, I'm coming from a sector that actually these people represent me more than the other sector because the other sector were the people who were oppressing me. Okay, that's what Greece 100 years ago. So we're carrying over all these negative, very negative traits. So at some point, your generation has to cut this off, just to eliminate those negative traits, because otherwise we're going to be going and wasting all these opportunities. So now I'm the establishment. I'm in the United States. I'm a capitalist. I run companies, and for some people in Greece, so if I go to my paternal village, they're going to be showing me that I'm a communist. Because of the last name. That last name is communist. There will not be anything else there. That's unfortunately the reality. Yes.
We read a lot in the press about the brain drain. Mm-hmm. So some people will argue that it's really true. Others say it's not really true. So what is your perspective?
Well, this is a very interesting question because I'm standing here and I may claim that I'm the brain drain because I left and never went back. And in Greece, historically, there was always some mobility. So even the people who left Greece not to be educated, you may claim that these people, were brain drained because they're very successful entrepreneurs here in the United States who were not really educated. They started restaurants in the 50s, etc. So I think the brain drain should not be exaggerated because we were always a nation that was outward looking because we're in a small country, limited resources. We still have enough very good people in Greece to not be affected so much by the brain drain. What actually helps the brain drain is those bad influences from the parents. So the parents want, of course, their kids to go to university, and now British universities became in fashion. And some of them are tremendously bad. I can tell you that. They are not universities; they are jobs. Okay. So now the Queen is going to call them tomorrow. And of course, for a parent being in status, telling that your kid is struggling to start a company versus your kid is studying to the XYZ Polytechnic, which is worse than the TE of sales, but is in England, sounds better, correct? And they're going to pump the money there, and it may end up finding a nice job or a well-paying job eventually in England. But this is the forced brain drain that we impose on ourselves because of this habit, because we're actually introspective. So when I go in Greece, I feel everybody's introspective. We think that the world is rotating around us. We should think differently. We should think that we make the world rotate, so we should visit it. Okay, so people say, we started the Western civilization, so give me something. No, we shouldn't be thinking like that. We should be thinking, we started Western civilization with the principles that were established 10,000 years ago. Can we do something now to move Western civilization forward? Because there are plenty of opportunities to innovate in that domain too, for how we run the society, or how we bridge different ideas and different opinions. And the other thing we have in Greece, which I'm very troubled, is this. So everything we do is we're passionate about. This is because we're Greeks. And for everything there is this what people call in Greece οπαδική συμπεριφορά. So you start supporting a certain idea, a certain political party or a certain path, you stay with that and die with that and fight the others to death. This is the worst approach. We should be a little bit more open-minded. So that's how I see it from the outside. Yes.
Outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
Very informative. Because
I had a long drive, so I could think about it when I was driving here. The traffic jams actually here.
Probably will talk to you in the break, but I share most of your experiences and the conclusions you reached there. One area that professors like yourself are experts is helping people being exposed to a good climate here, either by short-term visits, exchange programs, this kind of thing, so that they open their horizons and move forward in that direction like you did.
I did.
Like your guidance.
Yes, and I try to give Greek students come to the places that I taught. I have some tremendously successful Greek students. One of them, Dr. Christos Arigianidis, is in Greece. He started in the solar panel domain. The solar panel domain didn't go far. Now he's in a domain which is called nanocellulose, very innovative materials, and he lives in Athens. I have another PhD student of mine who worked at Demokritos. Unfortunately, because of the economic downturn, he was on money that it was what you might call soft money. He's now a professor in Abu Dhabi. I have another student who actually has a tremendous story, who is a tenured and very accomplished faculty member at the University of Manchester, who did his PhD with me. He started as a mathematician, and he wanted to be a chemical engineer. And you know the Greek system, how do you become a chemical engineer? You get stuck with mathematics, you start there, he became really good at mathematics. And he approached me, I was director of graduate studies in Buffalo, and the university didn't want to actually invest in him in fellowship, so we put him in on a trial base in the first semester. And he put everybody to shame in his class by taking courses that he never took before. So he finished both a master's in chemical engineering to qualify to go back to Greece and a PhD in chemical engineering. Then he went to Princeton, he went to the University of Manchester. Yeah, these are the Greek people I have seen. And I have another student, Vasilis Sikavitsas, who did a PhD with me, who is a professor in Oklahoma. How did I meet Vasilis? I met him essentially in a coffee shop in Thessaloniki. He was frustrated. He finished chemical engineering. He went to the army. He was from a very humble family. His father was a driver for the buses, OAST buses in Thessaloniki. So through some connection, somebody told him that there is this guy who is a professor. We met. He's now a tenured full professor at the University of Oklahoma, one of the most known people in his field. He does biomedical engineering. Okay, these are the Greeks that I know. So if the Greeks can do these things here and can work not in easy environments, these are adverse environments. People think you go to the United States because there is infrastructure, it's easy. And I tell people I have seen more sunrises in New Jersey than the pilots that fly the 6 a.m. flights out of New York. Why did I see the more sunrises? Because I was a graduate student at Princeton, I had to make it. And I came here with very limited language skills, and I was working 24 hours a day. And I was in a high rise, and I could see the sun going up at 6 o'clock, and I would sleep 3 hours, and by 10 o'clock I was in class. That's what we bring. So to succeed, you need to have two things. You need to have, of course, motivation, but you need also to have some desperation. If you don't carry any desperation, you will never succeed. So it's skills, motivation, and desperation. That's what we carry with us. And I carry it even now. So last night I slept 5 hours because I have other things to do. I have to put this presentation, and we have to make things happen. There are no free lunches anywhere. People think in the United States, things are, hanging from trees. The most hardworking people I met here are people who break this head. And we have this work ethic. We have to take advantage of it back there. And we have to fix our family. Thank you. Well, a bit over, hopefully it was entertaining. I'm gonna be in trouble if this becomes public.
We're gonna take a break for 20 minutes approximately.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. For the presentation. I think there's one way to print it.